Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the world of artist Bob Camblin.
Yeah, we've got this great collection, his drawings from what, 56 to 93?
That's right, alongside a whole bunch of his quotes, his own words.
So it's a chance to really see how his ideas and his art develop together.
Definitely. And you immediately sense this dual interest, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. He's looking at the form, the physical stuff we see.
But also kind of what's underneath, the meaning behind it all.
Right, like a constant search for, I don't know, the essence of things.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So let's start with a specific piece, Bonnie.
Okay, yeah. From around 1959, you said.
Uh-huh. It's a profile, a close-up, and it's still, but there's this quiet intensity.
You feel it. Delicate lines, but they feel really purposeful.
Yeah, purposeful. It leaves you thinking she's deep in thought, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
melancholic.
Could be. And the details mentioned in the description, they become really important when you think about where he was artistically then.
Like the hair.
The hair, yeah, voluminous, textured, the soft features, the loose clothing.
And the clasped hands.
Exactly. It all points inward, you know.
Yeah.
That sense of focus.
And this is where it connects, because around 59, he was apparently really looking hard at Renaissance masters.
Right. Thinking about their underlying architecture, as he put it.
Like the Portinari altarpiece.
That and Botticelli's Birth of Venus.
Mm.
He wasn't just looking. He was dissecting how they were built, structurally.
And you can almost see that thought process in Bonnie, can't you? The description talks about line weight creating light and shadow.
Which maps directly onto his notes about the Portinari piece, that balance of light and dark areas.
So it wasn't just about making her look like Bonnie.
No. It was about understanding how light makes form, how structure works visually.
That's a great point. And Bonnie, it doesn't feel purely like a portrait, does it? It feels like it's pushing towards something more essential.
The essential elements of the figure, yeah. There's talk of a subtle contour line, almost like Botticelli's approach.
Moving beyond just copying what he sees.
It's distilling it, trying to find the core shapes, the fundamental lines.
So even early on, he's not just drawing, he's thinking through the drawing, deconstructing.
Precisely. And that focus on line and form in the art is a really nice visual anchor for exploring his ideas through his quotes.
Which brings us right to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't just random thoughts, they feel like, well, like insights from someone really grappling with big ideas.
Definitely. Let's start with this one. Fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years perhaps.
Huh. Yeah, there's a sort of poignant irony there, isn't there? That human wish for things to last.
We're meeting the reality of how temporary everything is. It's stark.
Especially for an artist, you know? Art often feels like it's trying to achieve that permanence.
Right, and maybe that intense focus on underlying architecture we just talked about was his way of trying to grasp something more solid, something enduring in the face of all that change.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, how about this one? It's almost like a haiku. 3 cottonwood trees, dense cluster of new branches. Now with them, gone. Look.
Wow. Simple, but it hits you.
That final look. It forces you to notice the absence, right? What's left behind.
Yeah, the power of what isn't there anymore. It speaks volumes about observation, which you see so clearly in the details of Bonnie, like her hair.
It's about really seeing the changes.
Exactly. Noticing the impact of absence.
Okay, then there's this one, which is just dripping with atmosphere and emotion.
Lay it on me.
As they approached, the memory of songs and music stopped at the moment the texture of its decay became visible to them. Sad how we all aged at that moment in time. Salt air summer, 1967.
Ooh, that's heavy. You can almost taste the salt air.
Right, it's like a mini story. And that melancholic air from Bonnie, it feels like it echoes here.
For sure. He's capturing that bittersweet thing about memory, isn't he? And time just marching on.
That moment when the decay becomes visible, like a loss of innocence.
Maybe. Or just realizing the weight of time suddenly. And naming the year 67 makes it so personal. But that feeling of aging, that's universal.
You can almost see that awareness in Bonnie's quiet gaze.
Now get ready for a bit of a conceptual jump.
Okay.
Camblin says, look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both.
Atoms and magic. Okay.
But then he follows up with, I will stick with common sense and try for the perfectly average view of the universe.
Perfectly average, that sounds almost contradictory.
Right. But listen to why. I think that will let me enjoy miracles on both sides of science and magic and the nuances of the smear between the whiteness and the blackness.
Okay, so the average view isn't about being boring.
No, It's about finding a place, maybe a balanced place, where he can appreciate both the rational, the scientific, and the intuitive, the magical.
This smear between white and black,
Yeah.
looking for that intensely bright gray.
Exactly. He wants to hold both, not choose one over the other. He sees value in the whole spectrum.
That bright gray. That's a powerful image. It connects to another quote, doesn't it? The sixth sense is to be, without a doubt, senza dubio. No doubt.
Yes, that's certainty.
It feels like it links back to that quiet intensity in Bonnie, a kind of conviction.
Absolutely, senza dubio.
Yeah.
It suggests his real confidence in his artistic vision,
Yeah.
no hesitation. Maybe that intensity in her gaze reflects his own focused certainty.
But then he throws us another curveball. Bright day, and I soar. How cruel that my soul is attached to this earth, and yet
Oh, that longing. You feel that tension, right?
totally wanting to fly, but being stuck here. The aspiration versus the reality.
It's that classic human condition, wanting to transcend but being grounded. Maybe Bonnie's gaze, looking sort of beyond the paper, hints at that too.
Could be. This next one feels very raw, very personal.
Okay.
I cannot tell a lie to myself for very long. Camblin, 1974, find something in nature that completes you and then surrender.
Wow. Authenticity seems key. That and nature.
Absolutely fundamental, it sounds like. That inner honesty.
And the idea of finding completion in nature and then surrendering, it suggests letting go of ego, right? Letting something bigger guide the work.
A deep respect for nature as a source of truth, maybe.
Seems like it. Okay, now we get into some quotes that feel almost like instructions or fragments of a philosophy.
Right, like this cluster.
Yeah.
The light is all you need. The end is to evolve by doing the best you can. The means is to amplify what you're doing and believe in the balance, patience, and yet freedom again. And yet in silence, the reality can be maintained.
So much packed in there. Light is fundamental, obviously, for visual artists.
Then evolution, effort, belief, balance, patience, freedom, silence.
It suggests a very mindful, deliberate process, but then it takes a turn.
Yeah. In the reality, the pain that I move away from, true love moves to indifference to protect itself.
That adds a whole other layer. Emotional depth, the costs involved, maybe the need for detachment sometimes to keep going.
It feels like his whole idea of what art is was shifting, too. He says, art is not just images. Art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake.
That's a big shift from just aesthetics, isn't it?
Huge. Art becomes personal, essential. A tool for living, for coping, maybe.
Yeah, moving away from that detached art for art's sake idea. It's about engagement with life, self-expression, maybe even, like he says, survival.
I really like this next one. It feels like an invitation to think differently.
Let's hear it.
Step off the train of thought, to find the power that is no power, to do the work that is not work, to laugh the true laugh. Bending is not bowing.
Ooh, I like that. Getting off the usual track.
Finding strength in unexpected ways, like power that is no power.
Yeah, maybe more intuitive, less forceful way of being or creating. And bending is not bowing. That suggests resilience. Adapting without losing yourself.
And then this image, incredibly vivid. Balancing and being for and against. We miss the clouds, and for a moment regretted it. Then, as lightning, the mind ripped out in flashes of variations to reach the still pond.
Whoa! That's the creative process right there, isn't it?
The back and forth, the missed chances, and then, boom, insight.
That lightning flash of understanding that leads to clarity. The still pond. It's about embracing the contradictions and being ready for those moments.
Then there are these very direct, almost Zen-like bits of advice. When you think, don't act. When you act, don't think.
It's about being fully present in the mode you're in.
Yeah. Deep thought for thinking time, pure action or intuition for doing time. No half measures.
Focus. Undivided attention for each state.
Let's switch back to his connection with nature for a second. Listen to this observation. The cosmos waves as me with tree leaves. Sun-heated air moves across the electrons of my skin. Sunlight reflects those greens. First, white, then yellow-green, and in deep shadows, blue.
Beautiful. You can just feel the artist's eye there.
Absolutely. That level of detailed noticing, the subtle shifts in light and color, it's the same sensitivity you see in the lines of Bonnie.
Definitely. His artistic awareness wasn't just for the canvas. It was for the world. It shows how that deep observation would feed directly into the drawing.
And this one captures something almost invisible. Not a leaf moves, and yet we all feel the cool breeze.
Sensing what's there, even if you can't see it.
That deeper awareness, beyond just the visual, Interconnectedness,
It
maybe?
could be tapping into something subtle.
I really enjoy this next one. It feels kind of cheeky.
Oh,
Well, that's enough about me, Mother Nature. Let's talk about you. What did you think of my last picture?
that's great. It shows such a personal, almost conversational relationship with nature.
Like, nature isn't just a subject, but a collaborator, or at least someone whose opinion matters.
Yeah, a source of feedback, inspiration.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely a relationship there.
Okay, let's dig into this quote about belief versus knowing. It touches on the science magic thing again, but goes deeper.
Right. He says, believing and knowing are different. Most people practice a belief or a religion. They were raised in mystics.
Yeah.
The mystics. They remain connected to a faith or abandon it. But they have been somewhere, and logic won't even make the trip. One must look for the balance of intuition and logic.
So knowing comes from experience, something beyond just logic.
That's what he seemed to be saying. It's not about rejecting logic, but recognizing its limits. You need that direct, intuitive experience, too.
And again, the key is balance, intuition and logic.
That theme just keeps coming back, doesn't it? Finding that equilibrium.
He then brings in a quote from Shinichi Suzuki. Art is not in some far-off place. A work of art is the expression of a man's whole personality, sensibility, and ability.
Which pulls it right back to the artists themselves, doesn't it?
Totally. It reinforces that idea that Bonnie, for instance, isn't just technique, it's him, his whole self at that moment.
Personality, sensibility, ability, all wrapped up in the work.
And then there's Alan Watts on interconnectedness. But I'll tell you what hermits realize. If you go off into a far, far forest and get very quiet, you'll come to understand that you're connected with everything.
Ah, that sense of unity.
It feels like that might be an undercurrent in Camblin's work, given his focus on nature and inner states.
It seems likely. If you're looking that closely at nature and yourself, that feeling of connection probably deepens. It likely informed his whole outlook.
Arthur Koestler offers a really neat idea about creativity. Creative activity could be described as a type of learning process where teacher and pupil are located in the same individual.
That fits Camblin perfectly, doesn't it? The idea of his art as this personal journey of discovery.
Yeah, the retrospective really shows that evolution, that constant learning through doing.
The artists teaching themselves as they create.
And Koestler, again, on genius. The principal mark of genius is not perfection, but originality, the opening of new frontiers.
That reframes things, doesn't it? It's not about being flawless.
It's about exploring, pushing boundaries, which seems very much in line with Camblin's varied interests and unique voice.
Yeah, his originality shines through more than any quest for technical perfection, perhaps.
Koestler also says, true creativity often starts where language ends.
Getting at what art can do that words can't.
Exactly. Maybe Camblin's drawings and even his poetic quotes are trying to express those things that are hard to pin down with just logic or language.
That non-verbal power of art, communicating on a different level, like the feeling you get from Bonnie's gaze.
Carl Jung weighs in too. All the works of man have their origin in creative fantasy. What right have we then to depreciate imagination?
Can't argue with that. Imagination is central.
Clearly fundamental to Camblin's whole approach. His art and words feel so rooted in this active creative fantasy.
Definitely. Jung also has this interesting psychological insight. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves.
How does that connect, do you think? It's less directly about the art itself.
Well, maybe indirectly. It suggests that observing the world, even the annoying bits, fuels self-reflection. And that self-awareness then feeds back into the art, giving it depth.
Ah, okay. A more subtle link. Jung also says, in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order.
That feels relevant to art making, doesn't it?
Yeah. Could those deliberate, careful lines in Bonnie be his way of finding or imposing that order amidst the chaos of just, well, reality or the creative process itself?
Seeking that hidden structure, revealing the secret order within the subject.
And Jung emphasizes play. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves.
The play instinct, I like that.
It makes you think of those purposeful lines in Bonnie, not just as work, but as a kind of focused play, exploring the form.
Engaging with curiosity and enjoyment, not just analytically.
Jung really drives home the importance of imagination. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable.
Just reinforcing how absolutely essential it is. Can't be overstated.
And one more from Jung on the mind's movement. The pendulum of the mind alternates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong.
That's interesting. It's not always about finding the right answer.
Yeah, maybe it helps explain Camblin's wide-ranging, sometimes paradoxical quotes, his mind swinging between different modes, exploring rather than judging.
That back-and-forth exploration seems very characteristic of his thinking.
Okay, now for a shift. There's a set of really striking, self-assured quotes attributed to the Magus.
Ah, yes. Powerful stuff.
You wish to be liked, I wish simply to be, and there is no plan, all is hazard, and the only thing that will preserve us is ourselves.
Wow. Very uncompromising.
And this long one about self-acceptance. I didn't want to be anywhere else. What I was feeling justified all I had been through. I had to be this mind and this body. I had no other chance or choice.
That's incredibly profound. Radical self-acceptance.
And finally, the most important questions in life can never be answered by anyone except oneself.
These all resonate so strongly with Camblin's own themes, don't they?
Yeah.
Individuality, self-reliance, finding your own answers.
Exactly. That idea of doing your own thing and the personal nature of truth.
It really connects.
Dostoevsky offers a different kind of insight. There are things which a man is afraid to tell even to himself.
And every decent man has a number of such things stored away in his mind.
Those hidden truths.
Could Camblin's art be a way into exploring those, hinting at things unspoken?
Art is often a space for that, isn't it? For touching on the difficult, the hidden parts of experience. It's very possible his work does that.
Dostoevsky also nails that feeling of instant connection. We sometimes encounter people, even perfect strangers, who begin to interest us at first sight before a word has been spoken.
That immediate intrigue.
Could the quiet intensity of Bonnie create that effect, that instant pull?
I think it could. That gaze, the whole mood.
Yeah.
It draws you in on a level beyond words,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Salinger brings us back to the artist's integrity. An artist's only concern is to shoot for some kind of perfection, and on his own terms, not anyone else's.
Again, that focus on the individual vision, sticking to your own standards.
Seems to fit Camblin's independent streak perfectly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't worry about external validation. Just do the work according to your own lights.
John Updike has this fantastic metaphor. Art is like baby shoes. When you coat them with gold, they can no longer be worn.
Ooh, sharp. What does that make you think of?
Well, it links to Camblin's later worries about consumer art, maybe? Art losing its real purpose when it becomes just a commodity overly precious.
Right, when the value becomes purely monetary or superficial, it loses its function, its connection to life. It can't be worn.
Updike also called art space, a certain breathing room for the spirit.
That's lovely. A place for reflection.
Yeah. And you have to wonder if engaging with Camblin's work, his art, and his words gives you that kind of space.
I think it does. It invites that quiet contemplation, that spiritual breathing room.
Lawrence Durrell sees art as a way to deal with life's difficulties, a joyous compromise with all that wounded or defeated us, not to evade destiny, but to fulfill it, the imagination.
So art is an escape. It's transformation.
Fulfilling potential through imagination, even with the hard stuff, seems relevant to Camblin's journey.
Yeah, turning struggle into meaning through the creative act. It fits.
And Aldous Huxley reminds us not to worry too much about being consistent. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are dead.
Huh. Good reminder.
It kind of gives permission for Camblin's diverse, sometimes contradictory thoughts, doesn't it? It's a sign of life.
Exactly. Embracing the shifts and changes is natural. His varied explorations reflect that vitality.
Okay, let's get to Camblin's own ecology of art statement. This feels really central.
Yeah, it's a big one. He tells students, do your own thing.
And compares the art world to nature's balance. Each unique part is needed.
Right. He even defends art that looks self-indulgent, saying it might be crucial for the overall balance, especially when the world seems very wrong.
It's a powerful defense of individual artistic vision as essential for cultural health.
Like biodiversity for the soul, almost. Every unique expression matters for the whole ecosystem.
He also talks very movingly about the struggle to capture truth, that metaphor of drawing on a frosted window.
Ah, yes. The image appears, it's clear for a moment, then it fogs over, changes.
It captures that elusive, fleeting nature of artistic truth, doesn't it? The constant seeking.
And the difficulty of pinning it down. He also mentions that real artistic freedom can be scary.
Stepping away from the known into uncertainty, that takes courage.
Absolutely. Venturing into uncharted territory is inherently risky.
And he was clearly thinking hard about the art world itself, about consumer art.
Yeah, that shift he saw. Away from contemplation towards, what, shock. Quick recognition.
Concept replacing traditional standards, the pressure to be novel, maybe gimmicky.
He sounds genuinely concerned, maybe even troubled by it, valuing that deeper engagement that seemed to be fading.
It must have been a challenging time to navigate as an artist holding those values.
Definitely. Okay, on a lighter note, I love his take on teaching.
Oh yeah, the 3 years.
The first year, I assumed. The second year, I capitulated.
Oh.
The third year, I'm teaching.
Yeah. It's brilliantly concise.
Absolutely.
Says so much about that learning curve.
Anyone who's taught probably gets a chuckle out of that one. The stages of realization.
And finally, this absolutely unforgettable metaphor for the ego.
Oh boy. The goldfish one.
That's the one. Your ego hidden and following you as gracefully as a goldfish's shit, folded under the waving tail. How neat that thought is.
It's startlingly vivid, isn't it? And kind of funny in a dark way.
But it perfectly captures that idea of the ego always being there, trailing along, even when hidden. Unavoidable.
Yeah, that contrast between the graceful fish and its byproduct, it sticks with you, all right?
Wow. Well, covering all this ground, looking at the drawings, digging into his words, it's been quite a journey into Bob Camblin's mind.
It really has. You see that constant thread, that interplay between the visual form and the search for deeper meaning.
Exploring inside and outside. And that willingness to hold contradictions, to look for balance in that bright gray space.
And how his view of art itself seemed to deepen, becoming something really fundamental to life, to survival even.
And always that commitment to his own vision, to authenticity.
Yeah. His work really asks you to slow down, to contemplate. It's a reminder that art can be this profound way of questioning, of exploring what it means to be human.
So for you listening, maybe think about this. Which of Camblin's mystic switches, as we called them, resonates most with you?
Is it that search for balance between logic and intuition? That deep connection with nature he talks about?
Or maybe that call to just step off the train of thought. How could you bring a bit of that into how you see things day to day?
Or thinking about his concerns with consumer art. What do you feel is the essential role of art in the world right now?
Definitely things to ponder. We really hope you'll revisit these ideas. Maybe seek out more of Camblin's work if you can.
Or just keep an eye out for other artists wrestling with these big, fascinating questions.